Hey y'all, today's lesson is 8.2, the reciprocal function family. I'm just out for a little doctor's appointment, nothing serious. It's not terrible. It's a lot of graphing. If you have your graphing calculator and you remember how to put a graph in, you should be just fine. There's only 8 problems. Some of them have a lot of parts. Anyway, I will be back shortly, and I hope y'all have a really good day, because we only have like, I don't know, a month left. Yeah! Anyway, have a great day. I'll see you on Wednesday. The reciprocal function family is basically based on this function here. F of x is 1 over x. Any function we do today will be some variation of that. And this is the general form of the reciprocal function where x is not equal to h, because we cannot have a 0 on the bottom of a fraction. So I'm going to let you read through all this for more information on how that formula is derived. Then, hope you all have your handy dandy calculators. We're down here. It says graph the function, identify the x and y intercepts and the asymptotes of the graph. Asymptotes are lines where the graph cannot cross. So like down here, the graph doesn't ever get to the line x is 0 or y is 0. So those are going to be the asymptotes of that particular graph. Okay, so let's look at this function. Y equals negative 15 over x. And we're going to get out our calculator, turn it on, and go y equals, you might have something in there, just clear that out. And it's going to be negative 15. To make it a fraction, you just use the dividing sign. Divide it by x, and hit enter, and graph. This will be the best way to handle anything on this homework. There are only 8 questions. So we see that the graph looks like that. The old school way, 1,000 years ago when I was young and grass covered the earth and the dinosaurs were healthy, we used to have to make a table of points and plot it. Now that we have the calculator, we can just say, aha! Clearly, this function does not cross the x line. That's the line across. So there are no x-intercepts. So the answer here is none. Okay, the y-intercept of the function is the point where x equals 0. Notice that the function that x is in the denominator. Since x is in the denominator, the value of x can never be 0. That means, in this particular case, there's no y-intercept either. So the asymptotes of the graph are where the lines cannot cross. And once again, they're the lines x is 0 and y is 0. So the x and y axes are the asymptotes of the graph. So then it says state the domain and range. And I want you to write on your paper the domain would be all the x values. Move this over. And the range would be all the y values. So yet again, alphabetical order. D comes before R, x comes before y. Domain goes with x, and range goes with the y's. Your domain is going to be any x's you can put in, and your range is going to be any y's you can put in, or you would get out. So we can put in to our function here, negative 15 over x, we can put in any x that we want except for 0, because we cannot get a 0 on the bottom. of a fraction, and we cannot get a 0 out of this fraction. So the domain is all x such that x is not equal to 0. So except x equals 0. Let me get my little highlighter again. These are little tiny writing, I apologize. And then down here, your range is going to be all y's except y equals 0. Now, some of your problems will be just that easy. A few more of your problems will look like this one, where it says sketch the asymptote and the graph of the function. Identify the domain and range. So the first thing you're going to do is plug it into your calculator. So clear that out. And we're going to go 1 divided by, in this particular case, because all of this is on the bottom of the fraction, you need to enter it with parentheses. So we're going to say 1 divided by x minus 6. And then we're going to say plus 7. Graph. Because the first thing you will be required to do is to graph what it looks like, or to pick the graph that it looks like. So you just have to look for one that looks like that. Now we're going to look at the asymptotes, and we can see that at the bottom here, x minus h is the original function. So when this says x minus 6, we know that h is 6. We also know that it says plus k, so k is 7. We cannot have a 0 on the bottom of a fraction, so any x that would make this 0 is what we can't have. So the vertical asymptote is at x equals 6, which is the same as our h, and the horizontal asymptote is at the k, which is 7. If you were doing this very, very old school, you would first graph these two lines and then sketch the curve in. Okay, now let's look at the domain of the function. The domain of the function is going to be all real numbers except that vertical asymptote. So where x is 6 is where your domain cannot be, because it says except. And the range is a set of all y except y equals 7. So wherever your asymptotes are is where your domain and range exceptions are. So there's a few questions like that. And finally, you'll have some questions like this. Graph xy plus 8 equals 0. So what you need to do is simply get that y by itself. So subtract 8 from both sides, and you get xy equals negative 8. Then divide by x to get the y by itself. All right, so we have y equals negative 8 over x as our equation. Pull back out the calculator, go to y equals, and we go negative 8 divided by x, and then graph, and let's see what it is. Now you can see that our curves are in the second and fourth quadrants, so it's going to be this one. Have a great day. I'll be back on Wednesday.